Howdy, folks. Time for the weekly update. So, little about what went on last week. Chunk of it at the end, I was at County College, so that's where we go and learn a little more about being a commissioner in different specific topics. So, in this case, it was our public health responsibilities, a lot of focus on the mental health side, at least from my side of things, focus on the mental health side, and veteran services as well. So, one of the programs learned about is we can request green lights that during around Veterans Day, or it might have been around Memorial Day each year, I think it was Veterans Day, they string up green lights around public buildings as kind of a show of support for folks in the service or folks out of the service, veterans. And it's one of those things that one of the questions I got asked coming into this position, and one of the questions I've just heard asked over time in different veteran communities, veteran groups, is whenever you come into Coos County, when you come into a lot of counties, there's a sign that says, "We honor our veterans." And then the question becomes, well, how? What's actually being done? So this is one of the things that's out there. It's nationwide. I guess 700 different government entities did it last year, that they'll provide green lights to string up and just remind people that we're out there. Check in with your fellow vets or your family, your friends that are vets. Everybody knows one of us. So that's one of the things that was out there, more of a awareness item. One of the areas that was the biggest one to me is we got to go look at the state hospital. Now, unfortunately, and somewhat timely to the issue, we did not get to tour the state hospital like was planned because the administrator of the hospital, I believe it was the administrator, was just removed effective immediately, and the federal government had representatives at the state hospital to investigate it. I guess they've had something like 22 deaths in 5 years. So on top of everything else, on top of where I talk about they don't have capacity, they don't have the staff they need, they're not getting funded for the staff they need, and mental health in Oregon is just a challenging field broadly to attract anybody because it's kind of hazardous in our state in particular. Yeah, we didn't get a look at it, but we did get to talk to a lot of folks. One of the individuals that gave us a tour was a lady. She's 82, and her dad was one of the administrators early on. So not at its founding, because that was in the 1800s, but late 40s through the 50s and quite a bit onward. So she was actually raised on the grounds of the state hospital back when doctors lived on site. And she talked about how different it was back in the day. The patients there, it was almost entirely, if not entirely, self-admitted. Folks could choose to go to the state hospital to stabilize out and then return to their life. So she talked about how the patients on site were their friends. They'd watch over the kids sometimes. And it was in that sense, a very humane system. There have been problems with state hospitals over the years, absolutely. But in this time of her growing up, it was definitely treated a lot differently than it is today. And as of today, one of the things we were told is the folks there, they're only getting there to see if they can aid and assist in their own defense at trial. So nobody's getting there to actually get better or to stabilize. They're getting there because they've committed a crime. It's going to be a person-to-person crime as the severity level required right now. And they're there to see if they can stabilize enough to stand trial. So they're not even being called patients at this point. Their staff were referring to them as inmates. So it has gone very, very wrong from what the state hospital should be. And part of this week is going to be following up again now that we've gotten through some of the administrative, the budget, the different items that are pressing for time. I can circle back on finding out where we're at to get some kind of lawsuit or some kind of action towards the state over its management or mismanagement of the state hospital. And with what's going on right now, it does seem to be the time for that. So we've got that. Right now, they estimated for the aid and assist. So again, you've committed a crime if you're there for an aid and assist. The staff there estimated that 2/3 of the people they have are on drugs. So that again gives us a sense of what we're looking at in terms of mental health in Oregon. Of the folks that have committed crimes or are presumed but not sentenced to commit crimes except for insanity, 2/3 of them are on drugs anyway. So it shows that blurred line when we talk about mental health versus addiction. It's fallen in the same bucket now. Got that bit. I also was able to talk to one of the fellow commissioners that's out of Harney County. I didn't know this, but apparently they just suffered a 500-year flood. It is the worst flood they will have in a 500-year span. They've got about 10% destruction, it sounds like. As bad as we had it recently, this is going to be an example to study and see what all happens when it gets that bad, because their misfortune will help us prepare for the future, so that it's like they say, the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. We'll learn from their challenges. This week, I'm going to be down in Brookings on Friday. I was asked to be a panelist on by one of the commissioners down in Curry on a panel about traumatic brain injuries in veterans. So I'm going to mix my mental health background, some of my government, and then just experience as veteran. And I'll be observing the clerk's department. That's been a challenge when we looked at cuts. There was one that landed towards their department, and we're looking at how that can work, or if it will not work, and how we'll address that. So I'm going to go do some observation so that I have a better sense as well. This last week I also met with one of the city councilors from Coquille, learned about their challenge, what they're doing, what they're looking at to get better out of it. If you don't know, you can Google it. It's they've got a financial challenge. And then also updated the city of Coos Bay at their council meeting on what's going on with the county, what progress we've seen. We've been very excited that staff have come back with so many proposed solutions, revenue options, efficiencies coming from county staff in light of what we just experienced with the budget. There are a lot of ideas flying, and every one of them's worth pursuing, and we'll get there one by one by the numbers. But to that point as well, it's important to me we maintain that connection between the county and the cities, because more than 50% of the population of Coos County lives on county land outside of cities, but more than 70% of the jobs in Coos County are in cities. At the same time, in terms of law enforcement, more than half of the citizens don't have city police, and even in two of the cities, one usually doesn't, the other one never does. So it's that blend, that collaboration we always have to bear in mind. Sometimes it can be easy working for the county to think you're only looking at the county, when you have to remember the cities are also part of the county, and in terms of economic productivity, they're a big part. And that, I kind of flew through it. I got back late-ish on Saturday, so it's been a long week, and I think I'll wrap it up there. So, looking forward to the week ahead of us. We've got a lot of roads to go down. Again, very pleased with all the ideas staff have come up with. I've seen some things from community members. Everybody doing their part in this is what it's going to take. We're in a bad spot. The county has been in a bad spot for a long time, and we're going to try and patch that up as best we can right now so that we can work on items that are going to make sure nobody's going to have this problem again in the future. We don't want to leave this for the next group of commissioners. So that's it, and you all have a good one.